Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to Soccer's Overtime, your weekly look inside the San Diego Soccers and the Major Arena Soccer League, coming your way on San Diego Punto Football. With Tony Sanchez. I'm Kraig Elston here with you for Season 7, Episode 8, Waves and Stars. Things you can see off the Oceanside Pier. Also the title of today's episode of the program. El Señor Sanchez, ¿cómo estás?
I am doing very well. I'm not going to lie, Kraig. I've had the soccer weekend of a lifetime, and this whole week is going to be absolutely insane, and I couldn't have it any other way. It's been a great time here for soccer in San Diego.
Hey, nothing like it. You were there Sunday for STFC, putting their stamp on MLS. A lid lifter win over the champions. Unbelievable. A home opener coming up this Saturday. Wave sign an international superstar. All sorts of things going on. And, of course, our humble little indoor club keeps trucking. Keeps on trucking. Keeps on winning at home. If they keep that up, just win at home. Do nothing but win at home. They will be in the Ron Newman Cup Finals. That's a guarantee. On tonight's show, got a good one for you, of course. 9-0 at home. Wow. Another defensive performance lifts the Soccers over the Milwaukee Wave. We've got the game recap. We've got the highlights for you. The captain, we lined him up. Kraig Chiles joins us. We'll recap a taxing run of matches over the last couple of weeks. Look ahead to a playoff push. A lot of that push will take place away from Front Wave Arena, but the playoffs themselves will be right here. In MASL news, a trade that I think Milwaukee wish could have been consummated 2 days earlier. The Wave trade for the King. The King's not there as the Wave go west and lose twice. The Strikers are striking from the back. Bunch of backstabbers there, but the stab is goalie goals. And both the Comets and the Stars streaking through the sky. We'll cover it all. MASL news coming up. In soccer's news, playoff prices have season ticket members seeing red. And the club heads north. They'll battle a Tacoma side that's suddenly gotten a lot tougher. We'll wrap up the show with a match preview as we continue along. It's great to have everyone here on San Diego Punto Football. Don't forget to please subscribe to the channel. Please hit the old thumbs up on this particular broadcast as well. Let's get that 1-to-1 ratio of viewers to likes and help propel the show forward ever more. Thanks to everyone for being here. We wouldn't be here if it were not for you. Also want to mention a happy 75th belated to the great Julie V. Double deuce, triple E, the one and only Julie V. These incredible soccer's heroes of the past, Tony, they're not getting younger, man. They're not getting younger.
But the legend grows. The older they get, the more the legend grows, and as it should. Julie V, a wonderful human being. I actually met him before I knew really the soccer's history. He was a community coach right down here in a park, and played with him. And I was like, who is this guy? Oh, my goodness. He still got it. He still got it.
You know it. Absolutely. Yeah, incredible stuff. And by the way, just out of nowhere, as we get into it, shout out to Eddie Trujillo. I know somebody gave him a big old box of VHS tapes, but I noticed that he posted I don't know, maybe a couple dozen more soccer's games from the good old days. And I was digging into one of those the other day, just as a laundry folding thing. Hey, it was an old Lasers match. And oh my gosh, Bill McDonald, who is the Lakers announcer, was with Joel Myers on the broadcast. It's pretty damn cool. Yeah, you can see some new ones are in there. The Strikers, the Comets, some old interviews. Always great stuff. That's the one I think I was watching there. Soccers versus LA Lasers. Yeah, that was the one I was watching. And you can see the VHS tape quality there too. Coming up. Really cool stuff. Really cool stuff. So check out Eddie Bear's YouTube if you want to see some of. Okay, cool. dozen more. That's amazing. There's so many on his channel. It's truly collection, and it's one of those things you'd wish I could say it's a library. It is a library. It's an online library. May it never be erased. Incredible stuff. The history of a unique time in American soccer history. The heyday of the Major Indoor Soccer League, when there was no MLS, no NASL, and for about 8 years, indoor soccer reigned supreme in the United States of America. Hard to imagine.
Yeah, fútbol rápido. I mean, it's there's a reason why it stayed, and there's a lasting power to it, and it's a reason why it's honestly my favorite iteration of the sport. I grew up learning soccer through fútbol rápido, and it's a very rewarding. And I'm actually lacing them back up on Friday for the first time in a couple years. It's
baby,
what the body can do.
See what that thing can do. Keep that body moving. All right, let's keep the show moving. We got Chiles in about 20 minutes. Let's get to the Sockers and the Milwaukee Wave from Front Wave Arena on Saturday night. Another great crowd, Star Wars night. I really like these Star Wars jerseys. First time I've never been given one. As you see, this first goal that got taken off the board by Giuliano Oliviero, the head coach of Milwaukee Wave. And once we saw the replay enough times, Tony, good call, as Tavoy definitely redirected that ball with his arm.
Yeah, and as intentional as that may have been or not, like that's still the last touch, and he's setting himself up for a perfectly struck volley right there. But at the end of the day, that's something that is on the rules, and good on Milwaukee for being a full team. The coach and the bench is also playing as well, paying attention to these details. So it saved him a goal.
Tori Ibarra delivers the bad news. We definitely got confused by the way he announced it. Nonetheless, moving on, both teams will convert top arc chances. The first, Luis Morales just doing the old curl around. Basically, that's Escoto's old spot in the set piece. Morales just picks it up, and he's got such a powerful shot, Tony, with either foot, to be honest with you. He's quite an athlete.
Yeah, and it always makes me look at his style and be like, you should shoot it more often and a little earlier sometimes, Morales. But that's exactly what he has. He has that composure and just laser it through Banahene, and that's going to be impossible to stop for any goalkeeper to react even in that spot.
I mean, just think about all the right-footed goals you've seen him score, and he powered that with the left. Here, good Wallace-Scora opportunity. Bond wound up unable to tuck it in. Short corner. Tavoy just had a really solid game. All game really working on that movement off the ball to accept the ball while in movement. And could have had more than the brace he wound up with. Here's Milwaukee's equalizer. Inch perfect inside the left post there for Alex Sanchez. And 1-1, the score at the end of one. Honestly, I think we both thought the Wave played a solid representative game throughout.
Yeah, and defensively, these two teams are going to be matching up and really feeling each other out. And the fact that this is the only scoring is through set pieces is exactly indicative of the type of matchup that was going to come for the rest of the three quarters.
So 1-1 after one into the second quarter and into the net for Tavoy Morgan. This one is going to count. The dance is going to count as well. Giuliano Oliviero would try to erase the ball and look for a foul there. But I think the replay pretty clear. That's a man tripping over Tavoy's leg. And no kicking motion, no intentionality. And as such, just a quick turn. Just Tavoy at the free throw line. Just get him the ball, see what can happen. Wave just didn't have anyone, I think, physically who could stand up to Tavoy defensively.
Yeah, and that's the thing too with Tavoy is that he was very limber and nimble and able to get those movements off, and he was feeling it that night. And at the end of the day, had he extended an arm, that would have been something that would have been called a foul. But fortunately, he kept his composure and center of gravity. But then Wave did come over and tie this up.
Well, you saw the great goal stopped by Boris Pardo when Kyle Crane was allowed straight into the crease. This a Wallace-Scora that's essentially unstoppable. This is what makes indoor football what it is. Perfect wall pass. Here's the second man in. Oh, my goodness, Ian Bennett. All the room in the world. He actually kind of, as you watch that replay, slowed up to shoot and made it easier on Boris than maybe he wanted to. But 3 amazing Pardo saves over the course of this particular set of play, with the match still tied 2-2. Great save by Bonahene as well. He was solid throughout the course of the night, made a couple of different diving stops. But this one, Morales.
And that's exactly what you want to see, right? Morales and Tavoy getting involved in the goal scoring on any front. That's where the Sockers are going to go ahead and be absolutely lethal coming into the postseason. Is if these two can start getting it together individually and independently of each other, you'd like them to go ahead and work together. But that's an awesome look. Both strikers are getting on the scoreboard and being very important.
And another beautiful left-footed goal there for Luis Morales. Here's the closing seconds of the second quarter. In my call, I literally said every second, looking at every second. And right there in the last second, it's a guy who stays calm in tense times, Kraig Chiles, netting his 495th career Sockers goal.
Keeping that form, right? Like, you don't necessarily need Chiles to score a hat trick every single goal. You don't need, he's just that veteran presence that's going to get it done and really lock in on a position on that frame. And he's just so good at, just locking and loading and unloading that shot exactly where he wants to. Just still an absolute legend.
4-2 felt a lot different to me than 3-2 would have going into the half. Another great one-handed save by Bonahene. Sockers keeping the pressure up. Tic-tac-toe passing, but deflected at the end. Good ideas, just no finish right there. And then here's Charlie lobbing it into Tavoy. 3 men on him. Someone's got to get their foot in there on that ball. As Tavoy beach soccer spins it to himself, turns and roofs it. What an absolute blast. Now, Costa missed on the choreography there, but a man's goal to avoid Morgan right here.
Not that it's a beach soccer, it's just technique, just in any sort of soccer. That maneuver is so impressive and difficult to execute, let alone with 3 defenders on you. That's such an incredible move. And I would love to be able to have ball control like that.
Another Wallace scorer for Milwaukee. And 5-3 midway through the third. You wonder, okay, is there a comeback on? Do the Wave have another gear? I'll tell you what Milwaukee misses. Milwaukee misses Frank Tayu. Like, you can see, I think, watching this game, and if you go back and watch the full gameplay, but even watching the highlights, you're just looking for someone who is a consistent attacking threat on the Milwaukee Wave. You've got some really solid midfielders in Sanchez and in Bradley, guys who can handle the ball. Mario Alvarez as well, 10 and 80. Those are guys who can really handle the ball. Ian's not the scoring threat he used to be. He doesn't have that explosiveness that he once had. He's still fluid. He can still cash in chances. He's not as much of a danger as a guy like Kraig Chiles is still. Now, right here, we're watching what should have been a great Milwaukee run, just didn't put it together in time. Sockers defense was allowed to get back. 6th attacker, no real huge chances created for Milwaukee. In fact, they only had 9 shots on goal on the night.
And that's the thing with Boris Pardo's performance as well. Like, he was very important when he had to. Everybody's stepping up in the moments that they need to. Right now, the defense in the midfield for him is really stepping in. And, then we have some extracurriculars here with Mr. Ben Raymond, the coolest cucumber of the bunch, getting himself a yellow card right there.
Boy, Arturo gave him the stare, too. Get in there. Get. Siéntate.
I got some insider information on what exactly that exchange was. And, obviously, some language was used, but Ben was more upset that was his clear lane for his first goal. That's why he was so upset, because he could visualize that being that first goal that he was going to have a chance to get in. But nonetheless, got himself a yellow card.
And he got to watch the rest of this from the penalty box as he was waiting for a dead ball to happen here. 6th attacker save That's the last real actual chance at a goal as the clock runs out on Milwaukee. And the Sockers celebrate a 5-3 victory over the Milwaukee Wave. Very solid, clinical affair. And something I'll be interested to chat to Kraig about as well is it does seem like these two matches that we've seen on the blue turf have been very defensive and have not seen a very fast back and forth run of play. I feel like in some ways, if you're not putting the ball aerially forward, it's a little bit slower getting up and down the floor right now. And for a veteran team like San Diego, I think that's good news. You know, you've got really solid defenders, you've got a rock solid goalkeeper, and if you're not dealing with speed as being a major counterattack to what you present as a side, it makes it a lot easier to me to hold top sides down. And based on what we've seen against Chihuahua and what we saw here, you know, again, a slightly deflowered Milwaukee, and you know, they didn't have Taiyu. It feels like they're really missing that finishing touch up top. Hain is another one of their. He's always been injured, but he's a forward that when he's in the match, he can be dangerous, and you have to account for him. So I really do wonder: is this turf a big asset to an aging Sockers team?
Yeah, and it's going to take a while for anybody to really get used to it. And from what I heard, a couple of players saying like it usually takes 3 to 4 years to get that field to really get going and really be broken in. And you can't take this this floor over to Dick's Sporting Goods or wherever you take it to get it molded and get it fitted exactly right. You just have to play on it, and that's what's going to have to happen here. And fortunately for the Sockers, they're going to have the most experience on this floor when it comes to playoff time. And so that doesn't mean that that's not going to be taken into consideration by other teams and have to really start thinking of how to play slower, because that's the easy adjustment. You just slow things down and you don't have to be as fast paced. You conserve energy that way. Again, I hope I'm not giving secrets away. You hope that professional coaches would think of this at the first time when they're preparing for a game against the Sockers. But that's just the reality of it is right now. And, if the Sockers take advantage of that, and we'll talk to Kraig about it, we'll see exactly if that's what it is. It's a real home field advantage.
Well, 9-0 is a home field advantage, that's for sure. And the Sockers have allowed fewer than 4 goals per match over the course of the season at home. They're now 33 goals allowed in 9 home matches. So, that's the type of stuff that can win you playoff games and win you big games. It's not scoring 9 goals, although that's amazing. Chihuahua put 19 on the board against Utica to win. Then they conceded 10 the next day. I mean, by the way, that whole weekend was schizophrenic. I have no idea what's going on up there, because I've never seen Chihuahua play defense that poorly. So it's surprising to me, but it's one of the things that I look at when I'm truly evaluating teams is like, where is their true level? I wonder, are there performances like that in your basket? And honestly, one great thing you can say about this San Diego team is you can go through the games, you can go through the losses, and, I guess you can point at a couple of things in Kansas City. Chihuahua is playing inside a pinball machine. It's very hard to cast aspersions or to form conclusions on someone's defensive performance down there. Take those 2 games as probably the lowest marks on the score sheet. And honestly, there's very few games where you've seen San Diego just be a lapsed team defensively. And they've especially improved as the season's gone along.
Yeah, and again, that's a lot to do with the fresh legs that are available. In the beginning of the year, you had Morales really just coming out and revealing himself to the San Diego Sockers fan base, and just everybody putting himself on the map for that. Then you have Mendez starting to develop as well. You saw those glimmers of what he's able to do. He started to figure it out. Same thing with Keiko Gontan, where Keiko Gontan is just like, whoa, what is this different style of pacing that Gontan is able to do in the midfield? He's kind of cooled down a little bit too, but
Yes.
that's not to say that other parts of this team are really catching up and getting their sea legs underneath them. And now again is that building of chemistry, building the fitness. You need to get Leo still match fit. You need to get him as match fit as you can, because if you're gonna really think to need him in those crucial moments when you need literal magic from somebody, you're gonna need Leonardo de Oliveira at some point on that floor. And you're gonna need to go ahead and just have that tact to say, hey, fresh legs are great, but I need experience right now. Everybody needs to be ready at every given moment from here on out.
Yeah, and the Sockers are getting healthier as a team as well, and I think that's really important. The last couple of games, Cesar Cerda has been dynamite. He's been terrific, and he had maybe a couple of off games before that, but he was also coming back from a hamstring injury that had cost him time and had left him on the stationary bike as opposed to being out there on the floor. It's tough to get that quick burst back when you've been coming back from a soft tissue injury. So he's rounding into form. But I think having Bond and Raymond back changes the complexion of the Sockers roster. It gives it more size. It gives it more strength. Bond has speed. Raymond is extremely defensively solid. He's positionally aware. He's rarely beaten on anything. You've seen him in one-on-one situations as well. He's able to stay with attackers and stay in between the attacker and the goal. So those two guys, I think, coming back to the lineup, and it's something Kraig mentioned in a post-match interview, a couple of weeks ago. He said, candidly, when we get our full team back, I think we'll be, ready to beat anybody. And I think Bond and Raymond are a huge part of that. Obviously, we've seen, Felipe and we've seen Pee-wee in the locker room, while the team's warming up. Those guys are still trying to find their way back out onto the floor at some point this season. And that would be maybe the, Pokemon final form, if everyone was there in terms of veteran toughness and guys who know how to get it done. But I think Bond and Raymond are just underrated important for this team.
100%. That's the enforcing group right there, right? Where Raymond is a strong defender that is going to make sure that he is sound in his play and he will get you out of a pickle, but he's not going to be overly aggressive with it, but he's very smart about it. What I like about Bond too is that he'll let you know he's there, and you're going to think twice before going up and matching up with him, whether he's coming at you or he's defending you. You're going to think, oh, I'm going to have to face that again, and it's barely the first quarter, and again and again and again. These boys aren't afraid to get physical, and that's something that the Sockers are, have been needing in a lot of different ways, because they've been bullied in the past. They've been the victims of refereeing going not their way, where, hey, they try to go ahead and step up and match the other team's aggressiveness, and then they get themselves into trouble. But now you have somebody who's coming in and say, hey, let me put you on the floor a little bit. Let me let you feel that I'm here. Yeah, I'll get ahead and get booked, but I'm here. So you keep this in mind. Now my other dogs back here know that they can get back in there. And now you have Costa also coming in and being this little todo respeto, this little chihuahua and a thorn on the side of like, no, I lost the ball. I'm the first defender. And that's what Keith here is saying as well. Like, that's where his work rate has gone up, is defensively.
Yeah, it's true.
He's accumulated a lot more fouls, a lot more cards, but he's definitely there in moments that are being asked of him. In awkward moments, hey, you don't have the ball as much. Hey, you have Mendez, you have Morales, who can also do some of this trickery as well. They can move the offense forward. But hey, I need somebody to get down there on defense really quick and get inside one of our the inside of the big defenders that are coming at you. Get in there, you'll get the foul, or you'll foul them. It's fine, but incredibly important on defense for all these elements.
Very true. All true. And for the Sockers, a lot of positive markers that you can point to as we head into this final stretch, a stretch that's going to see a lot of road action for the San Diego Sockers. And they've got that same 3-game trip that's just ahead. It's not directly ahead. It's 2 weekends away, but it's St. Louis, Kansas City, Chihuahua. Last time it was Kansas City, St. Louis, Chihuahua. This time they do it the other way through Missouri, but they got to make that same trip that they got 2 out of 9 points on last time. If they get 2 out of 9 points this time, you can write off the top 2 spots. That'll be done and dusted. It'll be Chihuahua and Kansas City in some order. And by the way, the order could be Kansas City 1, Chihuahua 2. That's almost just as likely as the other way around right now when you look at how many matches the Comets have in hand and the gap that they have to cover in the standings, and the fact that they'll get to play some cuppies, out of the East down the stretch. I think both of those things are something to keep an eye on. But right now, I see that we've got our man in the waiting room. You never keep the captain waiting too long, You never keep the captain waiting. Let's welcome in the all-time goal scorer, points leader for the venerable San Diego Sockers franchise. I don't know if he knows that he's on 495 goals for his Sockers career right now. I don't know if anyone other than he, me, and anyone who's listened knows that, but nonetheless, it's true. And he is here joining us once again on Sockers Overtime, the great Kraig Chiles.
Thank you guys for having me. No, I didn't know that. First time hearing that, but hey, that's good.
Right? Not bad. Let's see. Is it back here? No, it's over there. I don't want to get up, but every day, and Tony can attest to this, but I write the career stats for every player on the score sheet every day, just so that you run into these things, like Tavoy getting 150 goals or, so on and so forth. But for you, I write 2 things because the stats we'll find online are your MASL stats. And those are really, really good. But your PASL stats are real and soccer stats as well. And so I always keep that one on the top. And that's the one that's been ticking up toward 500. Someone's got to keep an eye on this thing.
Well, that's the important one for me. The indoor soccer world has gone through so many different leagues over, 30, 40 years that it just doesn't make sense to exclude other leagues when you talk about individual stats in the long run. So, that's the one that matters to me.
Love that. The history of indoor soccer.
You're right, Tony? You there? It sounded like your mic went out.
No, we're good.
Oh, okay. Right on.
Yeah.
Well, sorry. No worries. Let's get things rolling. Kraiger, let's just start nice and easy with Saturday night. We were just talking about it. Really impressed with the defensive bones of this version of the Sockers. It feels like even some guys who used to be, we were just talking about Costa in that respect, a guy who wasn't really known for his defense, getting a lot more fouls, blocking a lot more shots. It just feels like kind of a 1-16 defensive commitment for this team.
Yeah, I guess it would be called a gritty, performance and a gritty kind of grind for us this year. I don't think we've hit 100% of our stride offensively. I know there's individual players that'll pick up and win games for the organization kind of sporadically. But you're right. We have a ton of really good attacking talent. And if the attacking talent isn't going to defend like they have been defending, it's really difficult to win championships. And so we've got fantastic offensive players defending probably harder than they've ever defended in their career. And that's a recipe for success.
And you have found success along with the rest of the team. 9-0 at home. What has been your impression of playing here at home at Front Wave Arena, and what it's been like this season for you?
Yeah, the hype is real. The arena is fantastic. It's state of the art. The new turf is giving us a whole new kind of visual dimension. And there's a little bit of an adjustment period right now on the new blue turf. It's playing a little bit different. But the arena's been great. The fans have been great. The support kind of up in Oceanside area has been stellar. And, the team looks forward to keeping that our home base and our fortress to defend.
You talk about the turf, Kraig, and I remember when you and I were in Florida when the Tropics installed their new turf, and then being down on the floor at Front Wave the first night, it felt very similar to me in terms of being plush, thick, and slowing the ball down when you're rolling it across. Tony and I were just talking, though, after we ran through the highlights and kind of reflecting on the 2 matches there so far. for a veteran team such as yourselves, I almost feel like this is an advantage for San Diego. If the game slows down, I think that's in your favor.
Yeah, a little bit. And you could tell in particular, Chihuahua got a little bit tripped up on the field. Dribbling in open space on the field isn't as seamless as it would be on a different field. The ground is a little sticky. The ball kind of floats off track, so maybe an inch or two. You like look at the path of the ball, you glance up at the target, you look down, and the ball is 2 inches off of where you expect it to be, which in a game of details is a big difference. So there's a little bit of a learning curve. Hopefully, it's an advantage to us. We're going to be the ones in there the most, kind of getting used to it when it's all said and done. Hopefully, the turf kind of flattens out and gets used and gets stompled around or whatever needs to happen to kind of, get it back to a used setup. I just think it's how it gets shipped, Craig, and how it gets stored. The turf lays a certain way for long periods of time, and then it just takes time for everybody to kind of mash it all down a little bit.
I love that. And I mean, that's at home, but away is coming up. Kansas City, St. Louis, Chihuahua, Milwaukee. Strong run of matches against contenders. What have the Sockers learned about themselves in this run?
Those are games where if you really want to be competitive to win those games, you have to put, a really good effort from top to bottom. We got to limit some defensive mistakes, which we know has happened in the last few weeks. We've got to limit some disciplinary hangups, which happens. And truthfully, we're a better team when we play on edge. We're a better team where we have a little bit of fire to us. We have tons of attacking talent. But if we don't have that grit or fight or determination to the game, we kind of float through games and kind of come in and out of the game. And so it's really about finding the balance of being competitive and being chippy and fighting and battling, but not kind of carrying it over to a point where goes against us with the referees or goes against us with punishments and fouls. So it's a fine line to find. Sometimes you go over edge and you kind of draw yourself back in. Sometimes you're under that competitive line and it's not a good place to be either. So we just got to go into Kansas City and Chihuahua and St. Louis, all three, prepared to do the little details correctly, prepared to fight and battle and kind of get ourselves in a good position at the end of the game to make a real run at winning them. We have not had great success in St. Louis. So that win we got there late there was a big win for us. And on paper, people might think it's an easy win, but historically 7-8 years we have not done well in St. Louis, and I think we put a lot of emphasis on that Kansas City match with the huge crowd and the epic competitiveness in that game, and you can lose focus on the next one a little bit easily. So we're looking forward to all three games. We have Tacoma obviously coming up this weekend, which is our main priority, and then you're right, it's going to turn and burn into three critical games for the year.
Speaking of which, Craig, it's down the stretch here. The table is starting to define itself. And as we all know, what's at the end of that is an 8-game tournament, or 8-team tournament, I should say, single elimination to go through the quarterfinals and the semifinals at Front Wave Arena. The finals, a different matter. And Commissioner Keith Tozer said in our halftime interview, the finals can be 3 full games this year as long as arena scheduling permits. So for a team like San Diego, that's a reason to finish first, obviously, because if you did finish first, you could get game 2, game 3 full games at home at Front Wave. That could be a pretty difficult task for any of the other teams in the MASL. But let's say the Sockers, which are currently not aligned in first place in the MASL, don't make first place. At that point, I think there's some really interesting strategic thought that goes into place because, for example, if you finished second, you get the advantage of playing on Friday instead of Saturday. You avoid a back-to-back in the tournament. Then again, you might miss a chance, depending on how it sorts, to play Chihuahua within that tournament area where you could just nail them in one game at home as opposed to going to Corner Sport Arena. And it's nothing that I know you guys will try to manipulate in any way, but I'm just curious, kind of thinking about like what the various pluses and minuses are of where you wind up sorting out.
God, I mean, we've all looked at it 100 times and it could get penciled in any which of, million different directions. And As a player, we just show up each game and we're trying to win every single game. And if we can creep our way high up that bracket, then good for us. And if we struggle a little bit, it's really about finding the right form, hitting health, and making sure we're 100% into late March and early April for those playoff games. We feel like we have a good advantage at home, obviously, but we're a confident team on the road. We know it's been tough in Kansas City and Chihuahua, but if we have to go through the Lions' Den to win the championship, then that's what we'll be prepared to do. But I can tell you there won't be any sandbagging, or there won't be any kind of looking over our shoulder and wondering what everyone else is going to do. We're going to dig week in and week out and try to win as many games as possible, get as high as we can up there, and gain as much advantage as we can over whomever we play. And if you look at it, the 8th, 7th, 6th, 5th team, they're all tricky, right? They all, there's epic talent on a couple of them. There's philosophical styles of play involved on one or two of them. There's a lot of weird elements that either play into your favor or don't. And so it's a lot to look at. And I think you just go game by game. Let's try to win as many as we can. And whatever's meant to be will happen there at the end, and we'll kind of make the best of it.
I love that. And one of the toughest matches that you've had this season so far was actually up in Tacoma as we look ahead to the matchup against the Stars this Sunday, this weekend. Winners of 4 straight. What can you tell us looking ahead to this Tacoma matchup of what we can expect from the Sockers as they head back up there?
They got Pereira back healthy. They've got Toth back in the net. Mijatovic stepped out of that group, and maybe they kind of came together a little bit and caught fire. I don't know. It's hard to say from the outside looking in, but whatever's happened, 2 big wins against Harrisburg. I think some of the pundits on the East Coast were saying that wasn't going to happen. And then, 2 big wins against Baltimore, which everybody didn't expect that really to happen as well. And so, we know Tacoma's a streaky team. They can win 10 games and they can lose 10 games. And right now they're in a good run of form. They're never easy to beat. Chihuahua struggled there. Baltimore struggles there. It's not a slam dunk game. So we're going to bring a good roster. We're going to zone in on that game. The nice part is it's a 1-game weekend for us to kind of focus in on them in particular, but we don't take that game lightly. We know historically it's a tricky game, and if we show up and we're prepared and we start the game well, we could put them on the back foot and really dominate the game. But historically, those games are tight up there, and we just have to do our best to stay in the game and not get in foul trouble, not get in issues, and push through and let the offense kind of carry us deep into that game.
Gregor, a little bit on a different topic, but something I was really curious about while we had you here. Obviously, San Diego FC debuted on Sunday in dramatic fashion, winning away at Galaxy, but their footprint on the region is largely aimed at youth soccer. With Right to Dream Academy and the affiliations that they have put together with most of the established clubs in place, including Cardiff Sockers. I'm just curious as to what you see as the director there in terms of SDFC's impact on what's going on with youth soccer in San Diego County.
Yeah, they've really managed to make an epic impact in a 1 year to 18-month period. From the beginning of the conversation to where they're at now is like leaps and bounds in such a short period. And so they've really made an impact on the community. They've really tried to approach everybody in youth soccer as with this like holistic view from the top down. I think everybody can see that they're going to be the big fish in the pond, and their academy is going to be run, as professional as it gets. And it's going to be an unbelievable pathway and opportunity for the local stars in San Diego, Tijuana, and kind of the local region. And so they've done a great job. They've really picked up the fan support. They've really kind of got into the communities with the ball tour that went from city to city to city and kind of making their name and putting their stamp down. And so that game up in Carson, the big win in the first game of the MLS franchise up in Galaxy, that's no joke. And I think that was an eye opener for a lot of people. They put together a really talented team, and I'm looking forward to watching some of those games. I'm looking forward to catching a couple home games and truthfully, as a youth director, it's a matter of, can we produce some young talent that might be able to make the jump over there and give them a real professional pathway and full residential academy, fully funded, and it's in line with LAFC and Galaxy's academies up north. And instead of leaving to Salt Lake or leaving up into LA or FC Dallas, there's a home for the local kids to stay, to get real professional coaching and a real pathway and be able to do it in their home city is something that youth players haven't had, and it's going to be a great opportunity moving forward for a lot of these kids.
That's incredible, man. I'm really glad to hear that. On so many levels, I'm glad to hear that they've done the groundwork with the youth teams, and that they're, that pathway is something that's beneficial and organic for everyone involved. Outstanding stuff, Kraig. Before we let you go, just any comment you have on the institution of soccer's overtime as a motivating tool, whether it's to find your way finally to a double-digit scoring game, which I thought may be impossible in the new modern era, or maybe to rile up a particular player here or there as I'm trying to dodge slings and arrows on the front wave turf. Just curious as to your thoughts.
Listen, Boards is a little more critical of us. I don't know if you've listened to them, but they're really slamming us. And so we there's a big handful of us that are listening to this weekly, and we definitely have discussions about who's kind of on the hot seat for the week. Serta, I was telling Serta, hey, I know you weren't listening, man, but you're kind of under pressure. You've been making some mistakes, and people are noticing. And he's like, what? Who said what? What? Who said something? And so the truth is, obviously, it hurts sometimes to get criticized, but 98% of what's said is not incorrect. And as professional players, we all know it, and you're used to a little bit of pressure, a little bit of criticism, and if it doesn't make you better, push you, or get you to the right place, then you probably won't have a long career, because you gotta spin that motivation somehow, or it'll just drag you down. So hey, we're in the locker room. We'll take any motivational tool we can use. We'll play Golden Boards in front of everybody, and they'll preach East Coast, and then we'll put on the podcast and let everyone have it. And truthfully, it's the right call most of the time, and we are supportive of the whole picture.
I know you are. I just loved it. Savage comes by and goes, "You better look out, man. You better look out. He's coming
funny.
for you."
It's funny. Yeah,
like,
and well, the lucky part too is Phil and Cheeky often don't listen unless there's something where it's like, "Hey boys, you better tune in. Something happened," and they're like, "Oh, what? Tune into what?" It's like, never mind. So it's mostly the players spinning it around each other and messing with each other a little bit, but it's all in good fun. And truthfully, it's funny, the little motivational digs and pickups that can push you a little bit further in those games. It's a lot of it all goes together to help us kind of move forward.
Well, as we always say, Kraig, the tape doesn't lie, and if the coaches ever watched the tape, they would agree. So
that would be, yeah. You can see what's happening. Yeah, exactly.
All right, buddy. We'll let you go. All the best to the family. Thank you so much for your time.
Cool. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
That was fun.
I wonder if we have to ask who's next. Like, hey, who do we need to pick it up a little bit? Just
why not? We could go state media, Kraig. Like, just feed us a note in terms of which way do you want us to go? We can fox it up a little bit and just create a new vendetta.
Player fitness goes down. Oh man, I really wish they would have done a little bit more conditioning this weekend.
Oh yeah, no, hang on. Don't go anywhere near Savage's reign. Anything conditioning training, don't go over there, man. That room's sacrosanct. No, we keep it inside the circular room. I think that's fair. Really good stuff, really fun stuff. And also, I was really excited kind of about that answer from KC. That's one of the most enthusiastic endorsements I've actually heard. And it's not that we're walking around interviewing all the youth soccer coaches in San Diego County, but that's a really encouraging sign.
Yeah, no, I mean, as somebody who's historically gotten phone calls from that office and because of criticism that is constructive, that is definitely one thing that I have not had an issue with and a problem with working with youth as my real job as well. Just seeing that impact of the community and what they're actually going to go ahead and propose and be as ambitious as they say they are is it's really good when they pay dividends, at least in that side of things. And everything that happens within the lines in the 90, that's completely different. Whether we like what it looks like, just the crest, the colors, hey, it is what it is. But at the end of the day, San Diego needs to be respected and represented. And hopefully San Diego does that. And I'm glad that Kraig is in a position to do that, both for the Sockers and for San Diego, and maybe, diamond in the rough. And San Diego Cardiff soccer will be a San Diego FC soccer player, maybe at some point.
That'd be incredible. I mean,
Yeah.
just hearing it from that perspective, from a coach's perspective of, maybe one day we can have a kid that's good enough that can go to Right to Dream, and that we have created that path for him. And we've taken him from, a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old into somebody that actually leaves to go to Singing Hills, and how that's special. And it's not a territorialism of like, no, that's my kid. You can't have him. It's got to have the Cardiff stamp. No, it's like SDFC it's like going off to college, I mean, kind of quite literally, or at least soccer high school. And what an incredible soccer high school it would be. Okay. With that, let's turn to MASL news. The news you can use, MASL news. What do you know? Frank Taillou on the move to Milwaukee.
Interessante. I got that. I was like, what? Like, I thought everybody was fine. I thought everything was great in St. Louis. And that, things were mended. But here comes the notification. Because, yeah, we both, you and I, Kraig, get immediate notifications for everything MASL. We have bells on. Absolutely.
Ding, ding. No, I was doing prep for the game, and then I see trade. I'm like, what? Trade, Frank? Okay. But, for St. Louis, actually, I have no idea what they're doing. They could hang on to Frank Taillou and make a shot at the bottom of the table, at 8 or at 7, on the playoff side of the table. They seemed to play better when Frank came back. They were pretty listless when he was gone. And instead, they traded him for a young defender. So, okay, hey, who knows? Maybe that'll work out for them. But for Taillou, who in the 11th season of the MASL joins, I just counted it, his 9th team. It's pretty wild. And he's kind of moving around year by year now. St. Louis, Utica, Empire, Empire and Ontario. 8th team, sorry. I counted Empire and Ontario as 2 teams. How silly of me. I got confused between the team that was named after a place where they play and the team that's named after a non-existent place that is in the imagination of one owner. A theoretical state of secession. Remember that? He actually went to the San Bernardino, county board to argue for secession from the state of California, creating a new state, a 51st state, not Canada, but instead someplace much better, Ontario and San Bernardino and, surrounding region. We shall call it Empire. I will name my team after it, knowing that this will soon happen. I will take the lead and name my team after it.
So we're gonna have Soccersville up in Oceanside, just that like little hamlet of the Oceanside Sports Complex. It's just soccer stand. All right.
And then the angriest person in the world is the OCD guy who runs the mail in Soccerstown, as everyone misspells it every day, and he just goes, "No, there's a K." They always forget the K. Just an idea. Anyways, so back to Frank Tayu. Enough dunking on the concept of empire. But
This
I just-
tremendous news blog trade announcement. Great. Let's see what fantastic article is following. It's a sentence.
in a well, it's a blockbuster move.
Clearly, I mean, clearly.
Where's the follow-up column?
Find more elsewhere. MASL.
Someone needs some someone needs some interns in the MASL office, some enterprising soccer writers that are looking to break in, because that ain't it. Oh well. I mean, Lindsay put the sentence up. Appreciation to her. No diss on her. Just like where's it's 4 days later. Why hasn't Milwaukee written a story?
There's more stories on the Facebook groups than there ever pretty much will be on MASL, and I've come to realize this sad reality where I'm just like, oh, it's finally here, and then I open it, it's like, oh, there's just a nothing burger. It's a phantom story.
Yeah. Well, either way, Tayu is now in Milwaukee, and I think it does change things slightly. Just in that, watching the Wave, they need a finisher. They don't have that elite finisher, and especially they don't have a target. They've really just got attacking midfielders, and they're banging balls off the wall. They're trying to wall a score all the time, which is fun. But like, where's the other way? We saw what Tavoy does, is just create goals. Just I'm here, now I've scored. Frank can do that. At his best, he can do that. At his worst, he clogs up the offense and denies the ball to those players who could attack and score. We've seen different versions of that over the course of years. But having at least chatted to Frank about this, gotten some background on it. I didn't go chat to the St. Louis owners, so didn't get the whole measure of it. But based on what I understand about the situation, it's pretty straightforward, and it's pretty much what you'd expect. He came thinking there was going to be a level of commitment to victory in St. Louis that he did not perceive as being there. And then when he tried to put it in that direction, it got thrown on him. Now he gone. So, I think good for him, because in St. Louis, the best thing they could have possibly done is finish 8th and get punked in the first round. So with Milwaukee, maybe a chance to win a game in the playoffs, and who knows, it's single elim, anything can happen.
Yeah, that's a hold-up play that was sorely missing from Milwaukee. They have a Frank Tayu sized hole in that team, definitely, and that's going to be the piece that'll make it a little bit more interesting, a little bit more dynamic, where you don't have to rely. Wall scorers are literally the indoor soccer version of winger to winger, and something in the middle. Let's just hope something happens. And again, those wall scorers are cool and they're fun, but you really need goals at the end of the day. And Frank Tayu can potentially be that anchor and have defenders fly behind, attackers fly behind him, and really set things up that way. So, I mean, if they figure it out, watch out. It can be dangerous on any given day, as you mentioned. One game elimination, anybody's game that day.
I just had a fit of inspiration talking about this. And so I'm going to skip one dot on our little rundown, because if this were a real league and like there was a true advantage for St. Louis to go in the tank and like trade guys away in order to get the number 1 pick, because the next Frank Tayu is coming into the league next year and we're going to, pick first and we're going to get him or whatever, I mean, we know there's an MASL draft, but come on. We know where the road is here. But if there was, and it wasn't a situation where you wouldn't trade a guy because, he's got his coaching tree in the town where he lives and he's not going to move. If there was so much money that everyone would move and play wherever and then go back to their hometown and live places for tax purposes and so on and so forth, then the Empire Strikers should be knocking on St. Louis's door and refusing to leave the doorstep until it's answered and Paulo Nascimento is delivered to Onua Obasi's waiting hug. Because if there's one guy that could really shake things up, it would be one of the best players goalkeepers in the league at coming up, holding the ball, and moving the ball. A player that, not for nothing, played for Onua Obasi at TST multiple times, to take even a step higher, because Obasi, Tony, is shaking up the MASL with his tactics and with bringing his TST style to Empire, not a real place, Ontario, Toyota Arena. And, I'm not trying to take your job away, Brian Orozco, but like Brian Orozco, who's never been a great shot stopper in the league statistically, has scored the match-winning goal 2 matches in a row to give the Strikers wins. He is coming up and scoring in the fourth quarter. And I just think of Paolo as like kind of the aging but platonic ideal for that. Chris, again, a guy who could really do that job. And with the right players, I mean, it looks like Obasi is onto a strategy that at least the league is not quite adapted to.
Yeah, and that's definitely the ambulating goalkeeper, portero ambulante. That it's interesting because it's almost like a total football mentality where Johan Cruyff in the outdoor game essentially said that everybody can play any position at any given point in the match. That's literally what this is. The goalkeeper is going to be a defender, and they're going to go ahead and be a distributor, a midfielder at some point, depending on the game situation. Sometimes even the striker, in this case with Brian Orozco. And, he's netted a couple of important goals, like you mentioned, but 2 back-to-back game winners is something that is impressive. And if they get somebody who is a master of that and not just say, hey, just adapt to what we have here and have some really good skills with the ball on your foot, that can definitely revolutionize the way things are played. And you're going to have to account for that. Sure, it might take somebody to just really dispel it immediately and say, okay, just do this, hold on to it, let him come up a little bit, then you pressure him, and then you get the ball, and then you score. They're never going to catch up, and then that's going to be enough to erase this mentality or this tactic from the game. But until proven otherwise, I mean, keep going. Like, this is growing the game. This is adding a different dynamic layer to the way that the sport is played on the floor. But that can be a dangerous aspect if Empire is able to pull something like that off. But for right now, hey, you know what? It's Brian Orozco. No shade on him. Nothing like a goalkeeper scoring. I've only felt that once as a goalkeeper, and let me tell you, still talk about it.
Yeah. Again, as I say these things, I'm just I was thinking off the top of my head. So I do want to say one thing for all the players that are listening. The MASL is a real league. I'm not disparaging the league. I'm discussing real in terms of if you all made so much money that you went to whatever city paid you the most money year by year because you knew that you had to earn, 85% of your adult lifetime earnings during the course of your athletic career, then you would be traded willy-nilly. Then people would be moving all the time. MASL trade deadline wouldn't be one guy moving or 2 or 3 guys moving. And how many trades in this league have been canceled because someone didn't want to break up their coaching job that pays them X amount of money, or didn't want to move their family because they've got another job when the season's over. That's what I'm referring to, is the level of funding and remuneration, the amount of money you make, that makes it so that you are a hired gun, a la Dylan Cease, pitching in Chicago until he's traded to San Diego, until he's maybe traded somewhere else, or until he will sign somewhere else, for wherever the millions and hundreds of millions take him. Or, Kevin De Bruyne, or Anders Dreyer, or Chucky Lozano, or Vela, or so on and so forth. That's all I meant by that. And Orozco, I'm not trying to take your job away, man. It's just Paolo, man. Could you imagine? I would think that would be a guy that literally Obasi would be asking for. Like, hey, you can teach you. He can play 30 minutes, and you can play 30 minutes, Brian. But he'll teach you the ropes on this. Like, no one's better. So that would be really interesting to me. Hey, the Strikers have won 9 games. They won 3 last year.
Yeah, they're doing all right. Like, all right in relative terms.
I think next Wednesday's game is a tough game.
Yeah.
Midweek, getting ready for that really tough road trip. Wednesday night at 7:30, for God's sake. Don't remind me. Oh, I did remind me. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's going to be a tough game. Anyways, Empire is an interesting team. Chihuahua is supposed to be the dominant team in this league. They dropped 19 on Utica at home, dropped a 19 burger at the Odd. But Coughlin did not play that game. And when I saw that score was so outrageous, it really forced me to go to the box score. And then I saw it was like Mr. I've Never Heard of You in goal. So I was curious what the next day would bring. And the next day brought a Utica victory. Coughlin back in net and a Utica victory over Chihuahua. Meanwhile, Kansas City has won 7 matches running. They are on fire. They are officially the hottest team in the MASL. The second hottest is the one we'll face on Saturday, the 4 winners in a row, Tacoma Stars. And I think as we kind of, take a look at the standings, I think Kansas City, take a look at this team. They've got a good chance to get to number 1. I think they've got a real, and I think they play Chihuahua one more time, but 4 matches in hand. That's 12 points potentially. 5 points behind. Catch up these totals. And Kansas City could even consider themselves effectively ahead now. If you just look at expected results going down the stretch, I think Kansas City's got a real path to number 1. If they go to number 1, the odds of the Sockers facing Chihuahua goes up massively, because the Sockers could very easily finish where they are right now. Right? Sockers could sit right there. They got a 6-point edge on 4th place.
Yeah, and it's not a bad place to sit, to be completely honest. And we've talked about the way that this is going to be with this one table situation and having playoffs be here at Front Wave Arena. I don't want to say, like Kraig said, there's not going to be a moment where they're going to go ahead and just take it lax. They're taking this serious. There's no moment for this team that they're just going to be, you know what, let's just forget about a game. You would hope, especially from the captain coming and saying that too. But if that's where the San Diego Sockers live, I think that's somewhere where you can definitely see some happy and like, all right, this is what it is, and we're going to go ahead and move forward with it. And Kansas City's giving no signs of slowing down. No signs of slowing down. Absolutely. Chihuahua, I'm not sure what I'm getting. The inconsistency, whether it's outside of their home, obviously, but there's just an inconsistent aspect. Tovar being out a couple, just now.
No,
and,
he's out. Did you see his
yeah.
post? He's having surgery. He's out long term again. It sucks for Tovar.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Part of it.
But yeah. And yeah, I agree, Susan. You'd like to see things a little bit more even up, but the MASL is determined first and foremost by arena availability and money.
Mm-hmm.
We heard the commissioner say it. Why is the format the way it is? Because teams wanted to save money on plane flights. It's not because anyone thought this was the most competitive or, the most advantageous playoff format for the Major Arena Soccer League. It was to save money. Soccer's guaranteed hotel rooms. Teams are buying advanced plane flights and saving thousands of dollars. Now, which teams are buying plane flights would be a great question. Chihuahua could book. Kansas City could book. Be a little dangerous for a couple of the teams in the bottom. To
You
book
mean
those
fly the
flights.
whole team or half?
Tacoma's like, oh, we're in 8th now. Oh, do we really want to buy those tickets though? I don't know.
Google mapping Greyhound routes.
Oh man. Yeah. But again, we've talked about this. If as Angus said on dropped points, I get it, yes, but then again, when you say Sox 2, Chihuahua 3, remember the Sockers have one more match at Chihuahua, and that could be a 3-point swing right there back into Chihuahua's pocket. And basically, for San Diego to finish anywhere higher than third, they have to win at Kansas City and they have to win at Chihuahua. They have to win both games. I don't even think winning one of those two would. I guess they could theoretically pass Chihuahua if they just beat Chihuahua at Chihuahua. But it's going to be tough to catch either one of those teams. But if you lose to them away, it's over. Unless they just go into a stinky route. But I don't see that going for either one of those sides. So finishing third would not be a bad thing if KC turned it over. It's going to give you right now. It would give you Milwaukee. Or actually, right now today, it would give you Empire, wouldn't it? Well, hey. Interessante. Maybe with Frank, it gives you Milwaukee. As Kraig said, any one of those bottom three, and even if you, because I saw in the chat, Randy saying, I think someone said that, Randy, that Kelvin's going to Kings League again. Okay, well, what if that sagged Utica down into that spot, and then he turns up just in time for the playoffs? That. In a single game, I don't think Utica's got a chance to go all the way when you've got a guy that's in and out, and you're not building chemistry. But for one game, that dude could show up and light the arena on fire and win. And maybe you don't have an official there to take it away. Maybe Shane Butler isn't working that day, and then you actually lose the game. That would be a shame. As you can see, big gap between Milwaukee and Tacoma. And now a gap is starting to develop between Tacoma and the other teams. And I think, I truly think, like I said several weeks ago, this is how it's going to sort. I don't see any further change. St. Louis could finish 9th, or Dallas could finish 11th. Texas will finish 12th. And I think Tacoma finishes 8th. Unless they continue to push up and push a team like Milwaukee or Utica down into that space. I don't see Milwaukee falling apart down the stretch. And, Empire you just got to give them credit. You got to give them credit. They're plus 11. It's a lot more legitimate than it was. And they've got to be given a lot more grace, I'd say. And the Sockers, I think, have 3 more against them?
Yeah.
So... including a couple up there, at Toyota Arena, Empire's going to be they're going to be tough to sweep. I think they're going to be tough to sweep because our team is one of the few teams that I think has enough professors on it to kind of decode the strategy. But having said that, the last time we played them, it was 4-3.
Yeah, and they didn't have the experience under this new strategy as well. Like now they have more games and real game time chemistry to build with it, and so they're figuring something out. Something's being figured out up there, and let me tell you, Empire is one of those teams that has hustle. They have legs, and they can, and they have a pitch up in Toyota Arena that isn't a little slower than everywhere else, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's very true. So that's the situation right now. Looking at the table, it's starting to figure itself out. I think you've got 2 teams that really look ticketed for the top 2 spots. You've got San Diego with a outside path to take one of those spots, but it requires road wins. That's why it's an outside path in indoor soccer. Baltimore, they've dropped 2, but do take one look. They've played 9 away, 6 home. They're 6-0 at home. They've got 6 more games inside the college basketball arena. So, they've got an opportunity to stack some points later in the season. Then you've got that second tier. Yeah, look at that. Tacoma 6-2-1 home, 0-6-2 away. Yikes. Well, we're facing them away at their place. So difficult matchup coming up on Saturday. I think each one of the next 5 has something that you could say about it, right? Tacoma home or Tacoma away, the Stars at their home are very difficult. Then you've got Empire, tricky style. And then you go on this 3-game trip. And, you're hoping that you club St. Louis in the first game, but then you got 2 very, very tough games. And the KC is the back end of a back-to-back, lying in weight advantage, 5,000 people in the arena. Chihuahua, they get up for it. So I think it could be a real thing. Like, do you finish 3rd? Do you finish 4th? 5th could be in play if you drop too many points, the way things are moving. So, very interesting, very difficult stretch. Anything more you want to say about Tacoma, and then we can kind of wrap up on the playoff stuff?
Yeah, no, I mean, I find it interesting that, very well scouted by Kraig Chiles, knowing the temperature of that locker room almost, and knowing, hey, they do have Nick coming back. They do have Toth coming back. Maybe it was addition by subtraction, Mijatovich's absence, and just how that team has come together. So just be careful for another inspired side in Tacoma. They were the ones that took it to you and gave you your first loss to open the season. And these matches have been a little fiery going back to last season. So it's going to be fun to watch.
It absolutely will be. Okay, so wrapping up, and I don't know, I just wanted to acknowledge on the show what is a consistent thing that I think you've probably heard, Tony, and I've heard the last 2-3 times that we've been at Front Wave Arena, and especially we've seen in our chat the last 2 weeks as well, which is the fact that the Front Wave Arena announced the playoff deposits that were available to be made, a thing in tandem with season ticket members renewing for next year, and getting 3-day ticket bundles with or without hotel, as you can see, chance to align with some of the nearby hotels as well. But the pricing is really high. And compared to, for example, a season ticket member's cost to the entire season, the playoff strips are almost equivalent to the entire season. And that's for 6 matches in 3 days, of which no more than 2 could be played involving San Diego. So you're not just buying the soccer's matches, you're buying, Baltimore versus Utica or Chihuahua against Tacoma or whatever. I really, really, really understand why STM's season ticket members are upset about this. And as somebody who is no longer a member of the front office, the front office is now Front Wave Arena. There's not a soccer's dedicated staff right now. If I was in a room where they were talking about this, I would have been screaming. Like they would have had to throw a ball at me. Because to me, when you're offering games in a cluster like this, think about what it means to a family.
Yep.
If you try to go to a match at 4:00 and 7:30, and the next day at 4 and at 7:30, and the next day at 2 and at 5:30. Let's just say, God forbid, you don't live in North County. Like that's wild.
Yeah.
Like that's a really difficult ask, even for Gabe, Eddie, Cowboys, the Marlisha, Randy, like the top soccer fans of all time. Like the people who come to everything, Susan, the people who come to everything, I'm not trying to leave out names. All of our incredible, few hundred that usually go to everything that's soccer's. They can't go to all 6 matches. Like, there's almost no chance. But you have to pay for them all. Never mind, what are the parking fees going to be? I understand why the arena would want to try and make money off the playoffs. But Tony, I think they have missed the memo that this ain't the Padres.
Yeah.
Like the Padres can gouge me. Let me just say this straight up. The Padres I'm a full season ticket member for the San Diego Padres. They can nail me on playoff tickets. I'm so excited to be in the playoffs. And you know what I do? I sell the first game.
Smart.
I sell the first game. I sacrifice because I need to be able to afford to go to the next game and to be able to pay for the next round and to pay for the next round. Like, you don't have the opportunity as a Sockers fan to buy these tickets and then turn around and sell them for $250 each to a Blast fan that's coming into town that you're going to gouge for the number. Like, it's not a possibility. So this is going to blow up on them. Very few people are going to buy these tickets at this price. They're going to be forced to release them at a lower price. And then, either that or secondary market or whatever, it's going to be dropped down until people actually buy it. And I think the idea that anyone is going to come to these, like, I don't know, even the way that they've managed to get in all these soccer teams and youth groups and school groups and everything else. I mean, I've been really impressed. How many have been sold? How many have been given away? I don't know. I literally have no idea. Maybe they've sold every ticket. I don't know. But you can't do that back to back to back to back to back to back. And the pricing is, I personally, I would be saying, like, if you get a whole weekend pass, it should be maybe the cost that they have for one day right now. 75 for the tournament, or 90 for the tournament, not for a day of the tournament. That's just wild to me. It's a wild miss to me. And hey, look, I was looking at SDFC prices. SDFC prices are pretty crazy. Like, and I think from a SDFC standpoint, you could make a higher level argument. Is it worth my family to pay $1,000 to come see LAFC, and sit in the lower bowl? For my family of 4, is it worth it to pay $1,000 for MLS? But when you're saying, is it worth it to pay $300 for indoor up in Oceanside? Like, it's tough on either side. It really is. It's difficult on either side. And I just feel like this was a misstep from the arena from a pricing standpoint. And I think that it's going to be proven out. And hey, maybe they'll wave, stacks of hundies in my face and say, no, we sold 2,000 of these passes and we're kicking ass. But I don't know. I wanted to at least reflect what is happening. And if single day prices are higher than the strip prices, which is what you would expect in classical pricing, you get a discount on the strip. Well, then that's crazy. Like $80 for a game or something. It's the MASL, man. Again, it's not MLS. It's MASL. It's not NBA. It's not MLB. It's MASL. You got to know your audience. You're giving them great affordable ticket prices all year, and then you're nailing them at the time when you need them the most.
Yeah. This reminds me of just kind of the same way of thinking of, hey, let's not tax the tourists to build a stadium, right? Well, you have away fans coming in and supporting their team. Okay, you can gouge them. Like, if they want to have a chance to do that, sure. But your season ticket holders, the ones that are going to actually pay for the lights to stay on when everybody leaves, if this model doesn't work next year and you don't have a litany of matchups lined up there to have potential revenue come in, you're going to be left with nothing and nobody. Even if it does happen again and you go with this model, right? Then you're going to go ahead and be stuck with a bunch of tickets, a bunch of empty seats. And by the way, if you're paying that much, you better have a seat inside of the bench. You better be next to Kraig. You better be next to X and just having a great time. Like, everybody deserves to be that for what they're paying. And again, I love the game. I grew up with it. I'm one person that, again, I look at the jersey that's for STFC. No piece of cloth needs to be worth that much. No real ticket is worth that much. When, if you really want to go ahead and love the game, I'll take you over to Furate, where some of these players play over in Mexico, if you want to see them up close, and I'll charge you $20. I'll charge you the tacos on the way back. Like, let's do that if that's really about the game, right? Like, no, I love this league, I love this sport, but to do this to your super season tickets members that have already been vocal about some things that they've not really agreed with, but they've been matriculating along, they've been coming along. It's like, okay, cool, I love the soccer. Okay, cool, I love the soccer. But I didn't. But this. Some things have been adjusted. Some things have been addressed. But again, this is just another misstep, and it's a self-inflicted wound that's hopefully is not going to hemorrhage too much, and they get their wits about them.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I just, I love all the folks involved, and obviously I've worked with many of them for several years. So, I'm not like trying to light a Molotov cocktail and toss it into Front Wave Arena or anything. I know the season ticket members have been very vocal. I mean, to me, on messages, on this show, away from this show, at the arena, outside our booth, outside the arena, in the parking lot. I've heard it, from too many people not to at least bring it up on the show and recognize, because as this is the way I try and do the job, is I try and say what I believe. And if you say what you believe, then it's hard for someone to stay mad at you, because you've got to defeat the argument. I just think that the price is wrong. I think the price is wrong. I think it's way too high. And I think it'll be changed. Like, I literally think it will be changed. And I hope, as you said, that whatever damage has been done, I would think of honestly, it's probably fewer than 500 people who have been, long-standing season ticket members of the Soccers. I would think of them as the Congress for the Soccers, for the franchise. And if the Congress is speaking up, like, these are the people you can't afford to lose. Even if you are getting people that are flowing in, some of those folks are going to be first-time people. Some of them are going to be only-time people. If you're papering the crowd, if you're giving away tickets, it makes it diametrically harder not incrementally harder to sell them tickets later. Once you've given them tickets, it's harder to sell them tickets. So, strategies that work quickly, kind of like burning up all the coconut husk when you're trying to build a fire, like, it will burn bright very quickly, and then it will die out just as quickly, and it can't be revived. So I hope that this isn't the type of misstep that causes damage. And I do agree with what Eddie said, that when all the season ticket members decide not to buy at this price, and then those tickets are released, then you'll see where, once the market starts setting the prices are going to go way down. I mean, like the post there, a Utica whatever game, Baltimore Utica game, in the middle of the day on Friday, those tickets should be $7. Like the real price of those is going to be like 5, 7, 9, in terms of trying to get people inside that building. Really, for any game that's not Soccers. For any game that's not Soccers, even a great match, even a Kansas City, Chihuahua, somehow they face each other match, or real ticket price is going to be 7, 9, 11, to try and how many Comets fans can fly out. The Savage have actually traveled a couple times in the playoffs.
Yeah.
They'll probably have a little section, but like it's tough. It's tough. So I don't know if the league wanted to set a high ticket price. I don't know if the arena thought this would be elite content for them, an elite ticket for them. But I think if they think it's an elite ticket, they're going to be in for an elite surprise. And they'll find out, and hopefully they won't find out the hard way. All right. Anything else, my friend?
No, I think that's it. Now, again, we say these things because we care. We care, and
100%.
we care about the people, and we care about everybody's hard-earned money at the end of the day, because they're the ones that are going over, supporting this team, and ushering and welcoming everybody who's new to Front Wave Arena, and have been very nice about everything. And I love those interactions of seeing new fans and saying like, hey, no, come over here. They come and walk after the game, and just those interactions is really what this sport is all about. And hopefully we can keep fostering this. But hey, let's not push people away. Let's just not do that.
Yeah, that's all. That's all. And it's all with the intent of doing the best that's possible, and for this show to reflect the tenor of what's going on around. When in this modern era of internalized in-house media, and then you don't have coverage of outhouse media. That's what the players think when we criticize the game tape, Tony, that it's outhouse media. But outside media, independent media, if you don't have that coverage, then criticism sounds like hatred.
Yeah.
Then just pointed feedback sounds like attack. And that's just something, unfortunately, that's happened in not just the 21st century, but in the last, 7, 8, 10 years. The proliferation of social media and the disconnection of the human spirit as we connect to our devices. In sports, what's happened is newspapers have shut down. The ones that have gone from a staff of 30 in the sports department to a staff of 5. I mean, like literally, or 4. And then they're still trying to cover a great big city. And so what they do is they don't cover things. And so the Sockers will never be covered. They don't even get an Ivan Carter to come out anymore, So we're about the only place that can actually talk about what's going on with the Sockers. That's not created by the Sockers, but we do thank the Sockers for supporting us. We do. But just a place that actually the issues and topics of the team can be discussed. And I think without that, it's pretty easy to just listen to yourself say yes. And to think that outside criticism is hatred or anger. And it's not. It's all love. All right, let's get out of here. It's an hour and a half show. We did it. We did it again. Tony, you and Chiva and Abe are creating some of the best content in San Diego. SDFC fans should be clambering over one another, tearing off each other's jerseys to try and get to the screen to get your exclusive interviews and behind-the-scenes coverage. Please remind our fans how they can partake.
Absolutely. Everything that we do is here in the House of Soccer in San Diego. San Diego Punto Futbol. We have our show, Two Balls and a Mic, every Monday at 8 p.m. We go live. We have interviews. We have analysis. We have everything soccer related, goals, gaps, and greats. We have segments. We have laughs. We have a good time, to be completely honest. And it's a really awesome space that we have. San Diego Punto Futbol, the home of soccer in San Diego. It's where the insiders come from information, from what I've found out, actually.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. It is, absolutely. Follow me on Blue Sky at 619 Sports. You can follow me on Instagram at 619 Sports and Life. You can listen to the Annie and Elston program, where I'll be back tomorrow and every weekday, 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. on Padres flagship 97.3 FM, The Fan. All right. We will be back with Soccer's Overtime next Tuesday, and then a match the following day at home against Empire. So until then, I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. Be safe, have fun. We'll all watch the Sockers on the screen against Tacoma on Saturday. And until next Tuesday, take care and go Sockers.